Bellefontaine, and you're listening to the HomeBuyer's Hour on WCPT AM 820, where the facts matter. And I will confess, as much as I love this radio station, I always have to look at the call letters, all right, because I want to make sure that I get those things right. I have with us today Patrick Loftus in the studio, Joey Matthews remote, and Kyle.Harvey is with us as well. And Kyle, I'd like to start with you, please. Can you tell us a little bit about you? And I want you to do a short version about your transition from legal world to real estate broker world, and tell us about your brokerage as well, please.
Sure. Hi, thanks for having me on, you guys. My name is Kyle.Harvey. I'm a residential real estate broker based out of Baird and Warner's Gold Coast office. I like to say the location is the Neiman Marcus office building. Everyone knows that, not the address. And I was a lawyer for close to 30 years.
Wow, that's too many.
Exactly. No.
Says the other attorney.
Oh, man.
Before transitioning to a residential real estate broker. And my mother was a residential real estate broker.
Yeah, me too.
Growing up, she worked out of our house. So I would like to say I was her first employee answering the phone, Janice Harvey Real Estate, when I was 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. So, I guess I've been in real estate a lot longer than I say, which is now about 7. I'm in my 7th year.
And we're going to give out contact information, but is there websites, phone numbers? How do people get hold of you with questions?
So I have a website. It is kyle.harvey.bairdwarner.com. So it's not Baird and Warner, which is the name of the company, but just bairdwarner.com. So Kyle.Harvey, all run together, .bairdwarner.com is my website. And my phone number is 312-560-1032.
Outstanding. And did I ever tell you Patrick Loftus is my favorite attorney?
No, but I believe it.
Patrick, give us your contact info, please.
You know, I'm gonna do something that I probably shouldn't do right now, and I'm gonna say WBBM.
Why would you do that?
Because those are the call letters that always come into my mind. Because that little jingle is.
Then we're gonna sing a WCPT. That's it. Thumbs down from the producer Devin. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. That was a bad idea.
I'm pretty sure I wasn't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But
Stick to Spirit Airlines. So
Spirit, I'm here. I'm waiting. You know where to find me, Spirit. You know where to find me. Okay. You want to find me, Spirit? Find me at Loftus_law on Instagram.
Nice.
Or find me at Loftus Law on TikTok. Calling and texting, you may or may not have success with that. But find me, follow me on social media, DM me, and we can begin a wonderful relationship.
Sounds good. And the boomer in the room is me. And my name is Charlie Bellefontaine. I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors and Home Inspection University of Illinois. Our website is www.thehomeinspectors, and that is a .com. The school site is HIUIL, and that is also a .com. And if you're interested in joining the home inspection profession, please reach out to me. You can get hold of me at our phone number. It's 312-544-9180. Press option 3, and that'll bring you straight to me. And then my favorite mortgage guy, Joey. How do people get hold of you and tell us what is going on in the world right now?
Why, hello. I'm Joey Matthews, the VA loan nerd. NMLS 1330694. You can find me across all the social medias as at the VA loan nerd. You can find me at my website, thevaloannerd.com. If you're feeling randy, you could text or call me at 630-235. I literally just forgot my phone number for a second.
I do that all the time.
05.
Repeat that, please.
Got a little too randy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I must be a real boomer. I don't even know what Randy means. And don't explain it to me. Just leave me out there in the hook.
Yeah, actually, doesn't know what dork means.
I do know that, actually. That's a whale's private part. But that's beside the point. Yeah. I think I said that clean enough. I might be getting yelled at. But anyway, Joey, what's going on with the mortgage?
We got the thumbs up on that one.
Yeah.
The 10-year Treasury has been yielding above a 4% for a couple of weeks now. And we've just seen some strong economic data, which is bad for the rate world over the last, essentially since the beginning of the year, since the year turned over. Is it anywhere near getting close to that 5% yield level like we saw in September of 23? It is not.
Okay, good.
However, because of the economic data that has been coming out, people are getting a little bit more hawkish on the idea of the Fed dropping interest rates sooner rather than later. It's not going to happen. They're not going to drop next month. They're going to continue to sit on this. They still
Okay.
have 3 rate drops penciled in,
Okay.
but they will not be happening at the beginning of the year. If they hit 3, it will be, I would say, starting July, assuming economic data starts coming in weaker and weaker, which is good for the markets, for mortgage land markets, not so hot for the real world. But yeah, that's and today we had manufacturing index numbers come back stronger than anticipated, the strongest they've been in 7 months, which is another indicator that we are seeing rises in production, which means that companies are spending and they anticipate selling, which means we can anticipate CPI potentially coming back.
Which is always good things. Now, how many pre-approvals have you done recently? Because I got to tell you, I snuck this out 2 weeks ago when you were sharing that number. I got excited because I knew that a week or so later that our phones were going to ring off the hook, and boy, was I right. We ended up filling out the things. So, good news. Are you still doing a lot of pre-approvals?
I have 44 active pre-approvals,
Wow.
and I have 3 new applications from yesterday. So,
okay, we're
it's
coming in before
wild.
Super Bowl, and we're getting busy.
Exactly, the Super Bowl hangover, and it's not happening yet this year. So I mean, as busy as the first month of the year has been, I mean, and my February's looking crazy. Like March, April, May, it's all going to fill up. So if you're on the fence, get off that fence. Call my number. Let's go.
Make it work, right? Make it work.
Yeah,
Yes,
I've got 2 closings coming up while I'm on vacation in Costa Rica. Just want to throw that in there.
Yeah, we heard it.
Literally heading to the airport after we're done recording this.
And guess who's jealous?
Well, everyone should be jealous, to be honest. But
love it.
yeah, I've been bragging about that all morning. But Joey, one thing that comes to mind, and I don't want to be too tinfoil hat on this, but we are in an election year. I imagine we will see some efforts by our government to maintain a robust economy, because that will influence how elections go.
Happy people vote happy, vote incumbents.
Right. So I think there's maybe something that will happen within that framework to influence just how well the economy is going. But I also think that some of the economic data is maybe it's fooling us in a sense that anecdotally I'm hearing more and more people start to kind of complain about their specific circumstance, and manufacturers are manufacturing, there's however many jobs being created, but the sense that I get is that the jobs that are being created don't necessarily match the workforce that we have, and we're not going to get a bunch of software engineers applying for a job at Home Depot, for example.
I couldn't agree more. It's going to happen, and yeah, it's hard to hire people. But I'm going to you know what? I'm not going to switch. I'm going to transition right off of that and go on there. So Kyle, you were an attorney for 30 years, and you decided not to be an attorney anymore, and you went into real estate. All right, I'm going to Zig Ziglar you. Why? Why did you do something like that?
Well, I'm a big believer that you get to do something different after a while.
Oh, me too.
1. 2, I really enjoyed my legal career, but it was starting to be less interesting.
Okay.
I was getting less of the types of work, fewer of the kinds of transactions, fewer kinds of deals that I wanted to work on. And so I said, try something else. I went to law school at 22.
Okay.
I'd always done this, and I always just assumed I would go to law school. And the answer is, well, you get to do something else. And I also wanted to be good at something, trained up, able to do it while I was still young enough so that I could then do it into my older years.
29 into your 30s. I got
into
it.
my 30s.
Yeah,
But
I'm
the
with
point was, I like to work. And so this was a job that I could do as I got older. And finally, I wanted to stop traveling. I traveled a lot for
Nice.
work. And this one is very Chicago based.
Yeah,
do you do a lot of listings or you do a lot of buys?
I do both.
You do both, okay.
I actually get a little more jazzed by buyers just because I like to help them find their next home and change their circumstances. They're usually so excited to get a first home or their next home. So, but I'm so grateful for my listing clients, and I've got right now 3 really wonderful listings and
Nice.
more on the way.
Yeah, I feel what you're saying. You know, there is something special about representing a buyer, and you know, it's different than representing a seller. Now, from my own perspective, sellers are better because I make a lot more money off of sellers, and that's just the goofy way that that this practice area is set up. You know, and the part of me that likes money wants to only represent sellers, but the part of me that sort of likes to get their brain tickled is more probably keen with representing buyers, because you know there's really a lot more to do in terms of protecting buyers, and you can kind of suss that out by seeing how the multi-board contract is drafted, for example. I mean, there's however many contingencies in there, and they're all really meant to protect a buyer in case they find out something during their due diligence that makes them want to change their mind about the process.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know if we shared this with you. I used to be a fireman. I retired 6 years
I didn't
ago.
know that.
I did it for 37 years.
Wow.
Joey also used to be a fireman. Now, Joey, were you a paramedic as well?
Absolutely not.
I
wasn't
was.
even
Wow.
an EMT, man.
I was a paramedic. And, you know, during all that time, I did a lot of really cool things, right? You know, we actually pulled people out of live buildings that were on fire. We got them out of there. I delivered 5 babies. There's not a lot of human beings out there that could say they did stuff like that.
No.
And, but don't get me wrong, all the things that I did, you know, I put a needle in a guy's chest and another one in a person's heart, you know, trying to save their lives. Both of those people passed away. They didn't make it through, but they were desperate attempts, and you know we weren't going to save them anyway. But that doesn't mean we're not going to try. When we tried hard, but all that stuff that was really cool happened over 37 years. And then you know when you start getting involved in the real estate business, because I asked you your why, and I guess I'm sharing my why, is you know home ownership is a big deal to people. And it's emotional, and it's you can make or break a family, and I mean you can literally harm a family for generations if they end up buying something that they really shouldn't be in, you know. And that's part of the reason why I got into this. And when we finished, it was always the coolest thing in the world when the client would just look me right in the eye and say thank you.
Yeah.
They would shake my hand with their right hand, and they would hand me a big fat check with the left hand. All right? There's nothing wrong with doing something that's rewarding and getting paid for it. That's all great. And then same thing with Patrick. You know, everything that we do to protect those human beings into buying a house is a really huge thing. And those are the type of people that I look for to bring on to the show with me. That's why Patrick is here every week. That's why Joey is here every week. They believe in what they do, and they do it well, because we want to help other humans, all right? Part of the reason why I like this radio station so much is because everything here is about helping another person. And that's really the strongest message that they get out there. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now.
What's a check?
I'm sorry. What's it?
What's a check?
Well, before Venmo and Zelle and credit card processing, believe it or not, people hand me a piece of paper that they wrote little IOUs on there. And what was neat about it is the bank gave me the IOU. You know?
Yeah, I
And
tease you, but you know,
I know
get paid,
you know.
I get paid by check a lot.
Well, and on top of that, there's a lot of research that shows that homeowners accumulate much more wealth for themselves and their
Yeah.
families by being homeowners versus renters.
Yeah.
And it's dramatic. And so, you know, I start to hear these things that the next generation doesn't want to own, they want to rent, nobody wants to own. And I just think of the impact on intergenerational wealth and on, you know, people's ability to retire at a certain age. So I'm until I hear more, I'm a big believer in home ownership as a financial vehicle for the future.
My stepdaughter's going through that right now, and I love her. All right, and she's a renter right now, and her lease is up, and she wants to find another place to rent for another year. You know, and they're staying in expensive areas, so you're looking at, you know, a 2-bedroom place is going to be $2,000 a month.
At least.
At least.
I think it's
So
like
that's
2,500.
No, 3,000 and up.
Yeah.
Is
in
it
some of
going
the
that high?
In the expensive places.
So that's
Yeah.
$36,000 in a year that you don't get the write-off, and even if it's $2,000, $24,000 is a lot of money. And you don't get to write that off. You don't get any sort of appreciation from the value of the building. There's just, I just can't, it's hard for me to understand it. But I do understand building wealth. And that means you need savings, you need real estate, and you need investments. All right. You should be diversified in all three of those things in order to build your wealth. But she's afraid. She's
Real
just
estate is-
afraid. She has the money, but she's afraid.
It's
Real
scary.
estate is forced savings. In addition to regular
Yeah.
savings, it is forced savings. When you are paying down the principal, you are forcing yourself to put that money away, and you will get, not always, but most often, people get that money back and more.
Yeah.
I've been seeing, if you go back, and Joey, I need your help on this one, but my stupid little research shows that you're going to make anywhere from 8 to 10% of the original value of the money every year when you own a property. What's your thought process on that? Because I know you're an investor too.
I think that's
Well,
high.
I mean,
You
I
think
think
it's
it's
high?
high.
All right.
I think it's high. I mean, part of it too is obviously every time that you pay your mortgage, you're moving money from your left pocket to your right pocket, right? So you're not
Getting rid of it. I love that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And to quantify what we're talking about right now, NAR obviously they aggregate data. The difference in net worth between a homeowner and a renter is $280,000 in 2023.
That's a big number.
$286,000 for a homeowner net worth on
I could buy
average
3 Tesla trucks with that kind of money.
versus $6,000 for a renter.
Yeah.
6,000.
All I can think about with the
Sorry,
Tesla
Joey.
truck is how many
How you're
TikTok
gonna- how-
videos I see about what a piece of garbage that thing is.
I cannot wait to be posting my TikTok videos with my freaking cyber truck, and you're gonna love it. And it's gonna be wrapped in VA low nerdiness, and it's gonna be great.
Joey, I can't. Well, I wish you the best of luck with that.
We're going to
thing.
see a lot of photos with it, we know.
Oh yeah.
So the subject today. You sound excited there, Jerry.
A little bit.
The subject today is crossover.
Yeah.
All right. And, Kyle, I don't think I shared with you, I'm a human being. I'm prejudiced. I know, right? Really?
share
You're a
with you
human
that.
being? Yeah, I am. And I think one of the drawbacks in our society is that word prejudice, and I get it. There's some legal things about race, sexual orientation, all the other stuff that comes with it that's protected under the Human Rights Act. But there's a lot of prejudice that happens that's not protected. For example, me. I became very prejudiced against real estate brokers. All right. I started this business in 1993. I have been poked in the chest. I have been sworn at. I've been told I'm not allowed to do something. And then finally, I just gave up. I'm like, why am I marketing or trying to build relationships with people that don't have the same value to help their client as I did? And then all of a sudden, I treated every single real estate agent the same. All right? Totally inappropriate. I get it. Human beings are human beings, and there's good real estate brokers out there, and there's not good real estate brokers that exist out there. One of the reasons why we like doing the show is because I get to meet the good ones, and I get to decide and figure out who we are and if we're going to be a good fit for each other. So I was toying with the idea because I really believe there's a lot of bad brokers out there. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be insulting a group, but I just ran into too many of them. And I was thinking with the idea of becoming a real estate broker. I'm like, we got the best reputation as far as a home inspection company goes, better than any other company, as arrogant as it sounds. Why not take that transition to helping humans and start getting into the real estate business? And then you, being an attorney, switching over to the real estate business, I like to hear both views. How do you keep from still giving legal advice when you're a real estate broker?
Well, two things. First, before I start answering that question,
Yeah.
great question. What is a bad real estate broker?
Somebody that puts their commission, somebody puts their time, somebody puts their desires in front of their client's desires. I feel that is a bad person. We're in the business of building relationships of trust. In order to trust, it means somebody is paying us a very good amount of money. I'm getting passionate here, so everybody needs to start laughing at me. We get paid a very good amount of money to help somebody throughout their process in their life that's important to them. And when we start putting, for example, we get real estate brokers that get mad at us because we're on site for 3 hours. They don't want us to be on site for more than 1 hour. So I get headache calls from that. I get people, we average 70 items when we put in a report. I see them all the time. We count them up and we had them. I get real estate broker, oh, no. You're not allowed to put that many in there. You can only put 10 or 15 items in there. That's all we want to do. You're going to scare my client. And I'm like, we scare the clients from not setting expectations. We scare the clients when something happens that they're not expecting to happen. All right. In other words, if you're driving down the road and everybody's moving, you're expecting that. But if somebody all of a sudden locks up their brakes and hits the hooks on you, you don't expect that, and you might get into an accident going in there. Is that fair?
No, I do understand. And I sort of wanted to get to what is causing this influx of bad brokers. And I can see sort of, Patrick's going to jump in.
Yeah. So, I think a bad broker, let me give you an example, okay? Because that question is hard to answer, I think, in the abstract. Because there are really almost infinite amount of reasons why I might consider someone to be, not up to the task, right? So, for example, I've had situations where a broker, I say, hey, would you mind having a conversation with the other broker about this, that, or the other thing? And I can just hear in the response that they're not going to do it, right? They're intimidated by it, or whatever the reason behind it. I think I then think to myself, I'm not sure that that this person is up to the task, and so then I have to kind of take more on board onto my plate in terms of making sure that the client is adequately represented. Now, the specific example I'll give is this was years ago, I had a real estate broker who referred me a client, and they were buying a condo in a high-rise in the South Loop. Now, we got the condo docs, and there was a rental restriction. And I explained to the client, said, there's a rental restriction. If you want to rent this out later on, you may have a problem. Now, they're not at their cap yet, but, just know that's there. And then, for me, and I think Charlie's the same way, it's like, whatever it is that you think might spook the buyer, you've got to at least tell them, this is the thing that is, that is about the property. And, here's what I think about it. Here's what, I advise. But at the end of the day, it's the client's decision. Many people would view a rental restriction or rental cap positively because it's
good for the value. It's good for property values.
Sure. And the purpose is to have a more cohesive community, so to speak, because the building's not going to be transient with a lot of people coming in and out every year, tying up the elevators and all that. But I explained that to the client. The client's like, not for me. And I was like, well, take into consideration that, if you're going to buy a unit in a building like this, more likely than not, they're going to have some kind of rental cap. My building has a rental cap, because whatever. But the client asked me to cancel the transaction, and I did. And the broker was so upset with me. He said, well, why'd you do that? I was like, why'd I do what? Like, I got the condo docs, presented them to the client. He objected to something that's in there, and that was the end of it. He didn't like that I explained to the client a thing that the client then found unacceptable. And we never worked together again. To me, that's a broker that only cares about getting a check,
closing the deal.
And first of all, I don't know how I would have maneuvered out of that anyway. Here's the docs. Good luck reading them. If he can read and bothers to do so, he's going to see that and ask questions anyway. So, those are certainly the types of things that I think a client should know and be able to make decisions about one way or the other. And a bad broker is going to be someone that wants to steer you away from telling the client anything other than everything's fine. Let's just get to the closing table.
Kyle, I want to get back to you in a minute, but I just love that question. And the fact that you asked me that and you asked Patrick that. And now I kind of want to hear from Joey. Joey, have you ever fired a real estate broker?
Dude, oh my God, yeah. There's absolutely realtors I won't work with unless they are the list agent. I won't work with certain buy agents just because they bring nothing to the transaction.
What do you expect
and
somebody to bring to the transaction?
I don't know. Humility is a good one.
Well,
Picking up the phone's a great one. If you can believe it, everyone complains about lenders not picking up the phone. I live on my phone, but when I'm calling realtors and they don't pick up the phone, just communication. And then like the ones that are super anxious and every 3 seconds, I communicate. I'm very communicative, but you can't be on me every 3 seconds because I have a lot of people I work with, and I'm giving you updates when I get them, but you got to settle down. You're bringing anxiety. You're bringing a lot of pain into the relationship, and I don't like it. So
that's
yeah.
awesome. And Kyle was nodding her head, when you were talking about not answering the phone. So I guess that's a big pet peeve of yours too.
Well, I find that I'm able to pivot to the text saying, I'm trying to call you. And so they usually pick up the phone.
Yeah, and that might work. Otherwise, everything goes to voicemail.
Yeah, that's kind of I think the 2024 thing to do is when the call doesn't get picked up, you text them. You say, hey, it's so and so. Call me when you can. That usually works out better than leaving a voicemail. I know they've got like the new live voicemail feature on the iPhone.
Oh my God, I've been watching that.
I have it turned off because I have call forwarding on to my answering service, but. Still, I think leaving a voicemail is plan B in most instances. Shoot them a text.
For the boomer over here, I do enjoy texting far more than I enjoy talking.
Most of us do. It's a freedom thing, right?
Well, plus I get asked the same questions. So in this, because I train home inspectors and I talk business, you're going to get asked the same question. Why not formulate the answer already? And get it as complete and accurate as you can. And this way, all I have to do is copy what's in my notes, paste it into the texting, and my message is clear, concise, and to the point, far from what I do on this show.
Yeah, that's a good point. I am not, you've said this many times, and I've been like ignoring it. But you know what? I think I need to do that for some of the more common questions, especially when it comes to 2024 is a reassessment year, so it's going to be torture. Oh my God. Explaining that to every buyer is the worst.
Or when I make the mistake of answering the phone at 9:30 at night and go, why did I just do this? I don't want to talk to anybody at this hour. This is my family time.
Boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries. But I did. It's my fault. I can't blame anyone else.
Well, so first of all, I am lucky that I get to work mainly with really excellent brokers, brokers that I learn from.
Good.
And so that's good. And I try to be the broker that other brokers like to work with and that lawyers like to work with, that I'm part of the deal. Now, going to one of the examples you gave, Patrick, sometimes I don't want to call the other broker because I think the other broker has no say in the matter. And I would think it will be, we will get more done lawyer to lawyer. Because sometimes talking to a less talented agent.
You are politically polite.
No. But sometimes I'll say, let the agents work this out. Because if I'm working with a top agent, where we can sort of make it work, then we won't involve the lawyers. But really, I try and think strategically of what's going to solve the problem for the client.
Yeah, and that's a slightly different conversation, to be honest. It's not one where I have to go, well, all right, they're not going to do it. I think it's important to have those conversations about the strategy and in some transactions, a broker to broker interaction will be more fruitful than an attorney to attorney. Attorneys have what I characterize as mainly blunt instruments. We have very tersely worded, directly communicated letters, and we're all sort of the alpha control freak personality kind of thing, where that conversation can go off the rails if you got the wrong lawyer on the other side. Whereas sometimes, like you said, if there are brokers out there who, once the contract is signed, they're like, I'll see you at the closing, man. They leave everything up to the lawyer. And there are some lawyers that are like, hey, I've got the contract now, you go sit in the corner.
There are those, yes.
I don't think that is the right approach. And
It's a team.
people are allowed to have their other opinion about that. But we've worked on a couple of transactions, and I did my very best to be as communicative as possible, because you're an asset to a transaction, just like I'm an asset to a transaction. But one of the things that I'm not privy to without communicating with you is that I don't know what happened before the contract was signed and arrived in my inbox. I don't know that there was already a discussion about the furnace or
Right.
the roof or whatever it is. So when I get a ham-handed request from the other lawyer that asks for a credit based on the roof, and then I find out from you that that was already negotiated, I can then, when I communicate to my seller, I send them the letter. And I go, hey, don't worry about Section 8B that asks about the roof. I've already talked to Kyle. She told me that you guys had discussed it. I know that this lawyer didn't do the same thing, and that's why this is in here. It's not the seller taking a second crack at it necessarily. It's the lawyer. There's a disconnect on the other side of the transaction. Those kinds of communications, I think, are super important, because you can head off an angry response, because the seller is just as on tilt as the buyer is. The seller comes in, they think the buyer's trying to take advantage of them. Likewise, the buyer's feeling the same way about the seller.
It's emotional,
right?
yeah.
It's adorable.
So if you can blunt the impact of that ham-handed request, you can then, I think, head off a potentially acrimonious transaction going forward.
Now, we're getting a little over halfway time. I'd like to go around the horn, please. Patrick, if somebody else has questions on this, how do they get hold of you?
I think the best way to get a hold of me is on social media, trying to build my following. So, to the tens of you out there,
Tens of you.
take out
Millions.
your phone. Take out your phone, unless you're driving, then, pull over. Take out your phone, open up Instagram, follow me at Loftus_Law, L-O-F like Frank, T like Tom, U-S like Sam if you're listening instead of watching. Also follow me on TikTok. I'm trying to get to 1,000 followers on TikTok so I can start going live. And how exciting would that be for you guys? So to the tens of you at Loftus Law, come find me, come interact. I post a lot, and I don't want to be speaking to nobody.
I'm going to end up doing, and that brings up a good point. I saw a post, and again, I'm a boomer, so I'm more on Facebook. I saw a post on there saying, how do you help a small business? All you have to do is go on there and invite people to like Patrick's TikTok thing. It costs nothing. And it helps out, these small businesses, these friends, these people that you want to support.
I'm not asking for much.
No, you're asking for just a little click of a phone screen.
Yeah.
My name is Charlie Bellefontaine. Chicagoland Home Inspectors, please check reviews, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised on everything that you read about our company. Our website is www.thehomeinspectors, that's plural, that's an ORS, and it's a .com. If you're interested in joining the home inspection profession, please consider us at Home Inspection University of Illinois. That's HIUIL.com. We do keep most of our online classes free. It's only the live classes that we end up charging for. So if you want to learn about building sciences and you want to watch all our videos, please reach out. 312-544-9180. We'll get you access to everything. It won't cost you a penny at all.
Fighting the good fight against that Chicago accent. The home inspectors.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I do get asked that. Well, how do you spell that? Is that D-A? No, it is not. It's T-H-E. Joey, give us your contact info, please.
Why? You can call or text me at 630-235-2405. Follow me at the VALoanNerd.com or just go to VALoanNerd.com. Follow me on social media as at the VA Loan Nerd, where I am going to help Patrick get to that 1,000 follower plateau, man.
What a
Let's
guy.
go.
No lie.
This is my guy right here.
And then, Kyle, please, can you give us your contact information? And then I want you to go back after you finish giving us your contact info to the transition part. And also, how do vendors, tell me the difference about staying in your lane and crossing over. All right, please.
Kyle.harvey at kyle.harvey at bairdwarner.com is my email. My website is kyle.harvey.bairdwarner.com. My Instagram is at KyleHarvey, CHI, shy. And going back to 312-560-1032.
And you do your own podcast, right? And you've got a YouTube
What
channel.
is that?
We call it Monday Morning Coffee with Kyle and Ann. And I'm on with the very talented Ann Rossley, who's also a Baird & Warner real estate broker. She's been in the business for 20 plus years and we have a fun show. You can see it on my YouTube channel, which is Kyle Harvey Shy, CHI. And we talk about real estate. Each week we give an update on the stats of the market. Both of us focus on the lakefront neighborhoods, just because that's the ones we're knowledgeable about. And so we really focus on that part during our stats about what's going on in the real estate market. And this week, the one we just did on Monday, we focused on what was going on around the country. And some of the things that Joey talked about when we started with the rates, we covered a little bit of that.
Nice.
And yeah, so.
All right, go follow her. And, I've seen it. You guys do a little, like, you get around the neighborhoods, you do some fun little stuff, and, absolutely worth checking out, especially if you're someone who is going to dip their toe in any of the real estate in those neighborhoods.
It's funny. We have real estate brokers who watch us.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean you watch us? Why would you watch us? They're like, we want to see what you guys do.
Same
Okay.
here.
Nice.
Same here. People want, we always get top producing brokers that are willing to share what makes them successful. Their so-called secret sauce, which really isn't a secret. Just do it.
Yeah.
All right. But anyway, I want to keep focusing on the crossover and the vendors.
Listen, I believe that information, like you, Patrick, information in the hands of our clients, either buyers or sellers, is key to a successful transaction. And by successful, it means achieving their goals, allowing them to say, I made the decisions about what is happening. I had some modicum of control during this transaction, and I'm satisfied with the outcome.
We had something interesting come up in one of the transactions we worked on. It was a single-family detached home in the Bridgeport neighborhood. Do you remember? How did we navigate that?
I don't remember which part was
okay.
because it wasn't challenging to me, but it's interesting. Tell me.
Yeah, no, this was the one where there was a building permit that hadn't been closed out.
Oh, right.
And our clients are very meticulous people. They're both lawyers. So there were four lawyers involved in this transaction. Imagine that, just on the one side. Okay.
Sounds like fun. And you added another?
Well, I mean, there'd be at least one on the other side as well, right? So lots of people who are extremely analytical. But these two people, I know them outside of they're friends of mine, IRL, not just in the real estate world. But we talked it out a lot. What how could this come up in the future? When you have outstanding permits, it's probably not going to come up. At least I'm talking City of Chicago, unless you apply yourself for a building permit to do something later on. Fence, you want to rebuild your garage. And that was a lot of where the conversation with the clients was going. And we talked it out with the seller. I think the seller was actually, they went, they took some steps. They could have said, look, it's not our problem, buy the house or not. We have, we got 6 other offers. They called the building department, they went, I think, a little bit out of their way, and I think they, in good faith. I mean, the result wasn't exactly what we were hoping for in terms of we want everything to be perfect, but the way it ended up is that they were like, okay, we understand the risks here, and we still want to buy this place, and that's the kind of decision I want my client to be able to make. I don't want them to call me in 2 years and say, hey, why didn't you pick up this permit that wasn't closed out? We're trying to do something else, and now we've got to, spend $25,000 closing out this permit.
That was excellent, because they did have plans to do possibly something else on that property, and to know and be able to have the power to make their own decisions about it was excellent. No, it really was. It was very good, and I want the lawyers to do those things, not to not find things, to actually find things.
Yeah, and you talk it out with people. I mean, it wasn't a deal breaker in this situation, you know.
But also, luckily, on the other side was an agent who recognized that anything we raised, the next buyer would likely raise, and you at least had cash buyers who are ready to close in a short amount of time, who are ready to go. But the seller really did have to do something to make whoever was going to buy it comfortable.
But that's, again, it's the knowledge. Knowledge is power, and that's what they pay us for. And the more we know, the more we give, the more we trust. And that's what you did. You built the trust, you know, with the client by getting that stuff ahead of them. And looking up permits in the city of Chicago is not a hard thing to do.
No.
Well, but here's an example of something I learned very early on. My second listing, friends of mine had sent this to me. It was a house in Arlington Heights. It was one of those ranch houses that was built after the war, and it was the first time it had been sold.
Wow.
And we put it on the market. It sold. It went under contract quickly. They did an inspection, and the first buyers went away because of the inspection. And I said to, I talked to the client, and I said, I think what we want is the inspection report. And so we went and got the inspection report, and the inspection report showed that there was a problem with the foundation. That there was a crack in the foundation. And I said, we put it back on the market, took a couple of $1,000s off, because this was only a $220,000 property. Took a couple $1,000s off and posted the inspection report in one of the public documents. So everybody got to see it. We got the same price.
Interesting.
Because the point was sharing of knowledge allows people to make decisions. Because we hadn't known that there was a problem with the foundation before, we couldn't share that. We couldn't be proactive and share that information.
What was the problem anyway? Do you remember?
It was a cracked foundation.
Just a small crack.
No, it was a big crack.
All right.
Yeah, it affected the basement. Yeah, no, it was
affected the basement by water coming in, or
No.
it was a structural deal?
It was a structural deal. The next owner was going to have to redo the whole thing, but guess who the buyer was? A contractor.
Yay. Yeah, and fixing foundation problems, we just had this conversation because of the Zoom calls I told you I do, and I was talking with the client. They're looking at these cracks that are on here, and I'm like, yeah, it's definitely shifting, so we do have a two-directional movement. And they go, well, should I get a structural engineer out here? I'm like, why? In order to do a structural engineering evaluation, it's going to take 6 months. Why don't we just plan on fixing it and get the contractor repair out here? And you're looking at like every pier that they have to do to underpin something, you're looking at about $2,000 to do that. You're going to need at least 2, and then you end up having 1 for every 5 feet in the horizontal run. All right. So you can add up 2, 4, 6, 8, how much it's really going to cost and be in the ballpark. And again, it goes back to how much and who pays. And if you want to get it fixed, get it fixed. But long as you tell them what it is, and the sooner you do it, the better off it is. And now I'm going to run in there and start twitching and saying, why don't listing agents want to do pre-listing home inspections? Why is that such a hard thing here in Chicago?
Fear?
No, I'll tell you what it is.
Please.
So I had a luxury listing in Bucktown, and I said to my sellers, you bought this place 7 years ago. It looks great, but we're pricing it at over $3 million. It needs to look better. You need to have ticked everything off, and the best way to do that is a pre-listing home inspection. And they ultimately agreed with me, and we did it. But they said, I don't want to have to spend money to fix it up. I want the buyer to have to do that. And I said, it's going to come out of the price.
Yeah.
The fact that I can show this document and the receipts with that, it'll go a long way to selling it. And the answer was yes, and we succeeded. But there are people who say, but I take such good care. I don't want to do it because I don't want to have to fix things. Well,
it's going to cost you more. Patrick will back me up on this one. Whenever there's a contractor out there, there's 3 things, all right? When you're going to go ahead and start figuring out to get stuff fixed, it's either going to be good, fast, or cheap. You'll only get 2. And when you're in the real estate transaction, it's got to be fast. So you got to get rid of good or you got to get rid of cheap. One of those two. When you do it ahead of time, now you got time. So now you can go ahead and do it good and cheaper. But the quality is more important.
Yes, someone at that price point is going to have certain expectations. If it looks a bit shabby, and one thing I think to make note of is that when a buyer looks at something, they're going to have to do. They price it in their head at maximum or plus, right? They go, I got to paint this thing. It's $10,000. Well, maybe you get a painter out there for $4,000. Now you've taken control over what those costs are or might be, right? And I think, as Kyle said, it's going to come out of the price, and you're not gonna like it.
There's another home
here's also
inspector.
something.
Let me interrupt real quick. There's another home inspector friend of mine that's watching us right now, and he just typed up there, I wish more sellers would be proactive with home inspection, which can save them money up front versus having to negotiate later and lose money. Yeah. And so I think that he's speaking to your point as well. Thank you, Wayne.
Surprises kill deals, right?
Yeah.
Well, it also depends on the price point. For example, the transaction we worked on, the sale of their existing home, that thing was going to sell no matter what. We didn't have to do a home inspection because
it's a very cool property.
Very cool property where there's almost nothing on the market. I had 2 open houses before we were accepted, had best and finals due at the end of the day on the weekend. And I had 4 strong offers right behind it. So there was nothing but power. And it was priced where it was going to sell. So always the buyer was going to have to do the work themselves. And it worked out.
The seller still kicked in $5,000 toward repairing the HVAC
because they're lovely people.
They are.
But that brings up another point. Right now in New Jersey, they're presenting, and I'm talking about the state. They're I don't know. They're trying to make it into law that you cannot waive a home inspection, or you cannot put that on the actual contract that the home inspection is going to be waived coming in there. And so they can't use that as a decision factor of who I'm going to sell this to.
I don't like that.
Well, tell me why.
Because
I do like that.
Well, yeah, of course, you're an inspector.
Still here, guys.
I know. Jump in more when you get that
all
stuff.
The leverage. You want to always have leverage.
Well, look, Charlie, you're fond of saying, freedom is a very important value to you, and limiting
it is
what someone can do takes away some of that autonomy. And, I can understand why they would suggest that is a good idea, because an unwitting buyer who gets bad advice from a bad broker might end up in a bad situation. But I don't love that. I'm going to sound so, like I've...
No, just be honest. That's all.
I don't, I don't mind regulation. I think in many ways, regulation can be a very good thing. I think in this instance, it's an overstep. That's my opinion.
And my thought process on this is I don't want to force people to do home inspections. That's not where I'm going. And I still believe that they, like in this situation here, if it's as is, it's as is. If you're not going to negotiate, you're not going to negotiate. But in all reality, you really should know what it is you're buying. And you still have that choice to proceed or not proceed. And then for somebody to say, I'm not going to have a home inspection just to make me more attractive as a buyer, I think that harms. I think that does more harm than good.
Well, just wait till the market turns. I mean, we all think right now in terms of, how the market is and how much leverage sellers tend to have. I say tend to have because each real estate transaction has its own character. And so, I've said it before and I'll, repeat myself. Once you're under contract, the market is sort of irrelevant, okay? Because you're not in the market anymore. You are in a, in an engagement, so to speak. So, just because you're very attractive, I mean, you're in a committed relationship at that point. So, we
gotta love the dating, right, Joey?
Sure. So at that point, the
always, baby,
the relationship changes, but. The market is going to shift over time. A lot of people either weren't old enough to remember what 2008 was like, or they've got short memories. I remember from about 2008 until, let's say, 2014, it was very much on the side of the buyer. And that was a whole different market. Before, you would never see someone waive an inspection unless they were looking to like just tear the place down and build something, because, you know, why do you need an inspection at that point, really? But yeah, the market will shift, and that law will feel a lot less relevant. And then we'll have a whole new set of, you know, concerns. And, well, you know, buyers have too much leverage. It's always
It goes
changing.
the other way around, right? It's a
always
pendulum swing.
100%.
I get all that. I'm going to do a little bit of a subject change because we are getting to the end of our time frame.
Oh, good. 3 minutes and you're going to change the subject.
I always do. Joey, I'm going to need your help with this one because I know you know this gentleman. So I told you before I was a fireman for 37 years, and there's a young guy up in Northbrook. Actually, he's not young anymore because he's been doing photography of fires, and I mean just about every single fireman, Tim, absolutely. Every single fireman in the entire Chicagoland area knows this guy. His name is Tim Oak. He does have cancer right now, and he's been going through a bunch of different surgeries, and you know, money's running out. So we've been doing a GoFundMe thing, and I received a few phone calls from other retired firemen. They really know and love this gentleman. And if there's any way that I could get people to go ahead and look up his name, Timolk, Tim Oak, and then I'm sure you'll be able to find a GoFundMe page. And you've met Tim too, right, Joey?
Yeah, Tim has so many pictures of me on his website, it's silly.
Yeah, same thing. I actually look like a superhero fireman, you know, because of all the stuff that he does. But that's not why I like him. He just does a lot of good documenting.
Yeah.
He really believes in his heart that, you know, firemen are just, well, they're heroes, quite frankly. And they go out of their way to help other people and make their lives better. So if I can get anyone to please visit that, please visit that. We do have only about a minute and a half left. So, Kyle, I'd like to start with you. Please give us your contact information again.
kyle.harvey@bairdwarner.com is email. kyleharvey.bairdwarner.com is website. And 312-560-1032 is my cell.
One more time with that phone number, a little bit slower, please.
312-560-1032.
All right. And I am going to say hello to my favorite home inspector, David Engel. I know he's listening too. Patrick, how do they get hold of you?
You know,
And I'm fickle.
Don't worry about me. You know, Tim Oak, guys, you know, I'm jumping on board that. Timolk. Go to his GoFundMe. Don't worry about me. I'm good.
I love it. And Joey, please.
I'll leave it with the same thing as him.
Woo!
Boom.
Yeah, no,
Timmy Oak, baby.
yeah, he's just a very loving man. And actually, you know, just to put a little more sorrow on it, I just know that his wife, who was working at the same place for over 30 years, just got let go. You know, so now they're kind of hurting for a little cash when it comes to that as well. So, yeah, it's a sad thing, and it's something personal to me. I'd also like to give special thank you to Devin Tingle. Devin's our producer, and he's the one that actually make us sound somewhat decent. Again, my name is Charlie Bellefontaine. I want to thank everybody for listening. WCPT AM 820, where the facts matter. And again, my name is Charlie, and I am out.